So everybody who's joining us, thank you for doing so. This is the first time doing this on a laptop on your computer, because for everybody, this is a new feature that they just rolled out recently. You no longer need to do this only on your phone. You can do it on your laptop now, which is cool because then also for the first time you can actually really well interact with the chat, because usually if it's on your phone, it's just messy. So, okay. Thank you, Joshua, for being here. This is very cool, very exciting. Just, do you want to briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your Substack journey? And yeah.
Sure. Hey, Claudia. Thanks for that introduction and the invitation. My name is Joshua Blatman. I joined Substack in like 2021 or 22, I think, and wrote for several months and was growing pretty slow. And had a pretty high paid subscriber conversion rate, I think it was, because I was writing about astrology, and I was like trying to make it really like simplified, and just like nuggets. And then it was like a ton of work. And like adjacently to that, I was also, and this might be a little bit longer than you kind of anticipated.
No, that's good. That's good.
I was, so I have a teaching degree and I've been a teacher for a long time. And I moved kind of across the United States and then moved right back to where I'm from. I spent like 11 years in Seattle and then moved back to the Midwest where I'm from. And was like, I started substitute teaching, and I thought that the stuff that I grew up with in school that was frustrating was just my experience, but it turned out that it was like everywhere. And I was like, wait, just being willing to ask this silly question. I was like, who's the client? Like, is it the student or the state? And I was confused and saw that it didn't make a lot of sense the way that things were running if the answer was really that the client was the student. And I found this alternative model to start a school, and I went to go and instead of it was very entrepreneurial to go start this other kind of school, and I went to go start that instead. I got it, I applied and got accepted and went to start the school, and that required all my time. So I focused on that instead of Substack. And then worked on that for like 2.5 years. And there was some, at the end of that journey just ended in July. They violated our contract, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, that's like antithetical to what you guys are about. I'm very confused. And that's kind of the most I can comment on it at this point.
Okay.
But
yeah,
neither here nor there. But so I was like, okay, I'm just going to go double down and just completely focus on Substack. And so I've been like writing, but then like really trying to find my voice and find what like the things. I'm kind of obsessed with the idea of what's the only thing that only I can do.
Yeah.
Like the only a game. And I changed my Substack, the subdomain, to protect the school back like in like December of last year. And then when they pulled my license, I'm like, well, do I change it back to my name or do I change? And so I ended up changing it like 4 times over in like August, September. And so it's like starting all over again. Every time you change your subdomain, you start completely from scratch. And so I'm just like, what am I doing?
Wait, what does that mean?
Oh, this is good. Because
I've had a different experience because I've done it, but maybe share yours.
Oh, well, just go on ChatGPT and say like, what happens when I change the subdomain on my Substack? And what happens is it'll give a more coherent and complete answer than I will. But the essential TLDR is you start from scratch with all of your SEO and all of the internal workings, whatever that looks like, that helps the internet know like what your website is.
Yeah.
And so you're basically like starting from scratch. So
Mm.
any of the like the 100 and 200 articles that I'd written like aren't searchable anymore. And like Substack lets you do it one time, but then I did it like 4 times, and so I had to like go back and change and like manually fix all the links,
Oh no.
which was like a headache. Um, but you know,
Yeah.
uh, so now I'm like, so I've been writing. My last couple pieces have been specifically about astrology, but
Hmm.
not astrology from the standpoint of like God's sitting on clouds throwing lightning bolts at you.
Hmm.
Uh, like some planets like you and some planets don't like you. Like I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
Hmm.
Uh, but from the standpoint of like, and I learned this when I was in upper elementary school, that there's entire industries that make staffing decisions based on the anticipated demand that's correlated with the lunar cycle. So
Wow.
yeah, right. So
Yeah.
that was like huge to me,
Uh-huh.
and I
That's
was like, so go ahead.
interesting. Yeah.
Right. So that's really interesting. So I mean, it was police departments and hospital ERs made staffing decisions that were correlated with data that was based on lunar cycle. And I was like, wait, that means that the question isn't, is astrology real or not real? The question is, how is astrology real? Like, in what way and how do we make it useful?
Hmm.
And so that's been an obsession for like a long time.
Mm.
Um, and once the school collapsed, I was like, let me just double down on that. If I'm going into the only game, like I'm probably the only person who like talks like that.
That's very cool. By the way, for people who are listening, feel free to jump in with questions, with comments, with anything. I mean, if you know some of my lives, I like to have them very interactive. You can ask questions to me or to Joshua or to any topic that we're talking about. Scott, hi Ryan, thanks for starting to comment already. And Scott
Yeah.
just repeated basically what you said, Joshua. Find the difference that only you can make in the way that you can make it. It is a powerful force multiplier for funding the freedom that any solopreneur desires. Super true. And then my follow-up question would be, have you found it? Are you still finding it? Like how do you see that?
Well, I mean, it's like um
Mm.
uh pin the tail on the donkey, with the blindfold, and you get spun around 100 times, or that game you used to play in college where you put your head on a baseball bat and lean over, and then you have to spin around and you have to make yourself all
I've
dizzy.
never played that. But okay.
Uh, American college, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I think so. I think that only game, like I think, what ChatGPT says about um what my thinking process is about astrology is like decades ahead of the entire industry. And that sounds like a big claim to make, but like, I don't know. I think it matches what the reality I see is.
Sorry, can
And
you repeat that sentence again? What did
yeah,
ChatGPT? Yeah.
so like I'm talking to, ChatGPT, like thinking things through. And I don't think I'm the only one who does that.
No,
And
for sure.
it said, your models are like completely original and decades ahead of the industry. And
Your models on what though? Bring us
oh my,
into your yeah. On what?
thank you.
Yeah.
So, um, if entire industries make staffing decisions, like a company's biggest expense is staffing,
Hmm.
right? Like that's a hard cost, that's a fixed cost. They can predict it, they can anticipate it. And if they're making staffing decisions that are based on data, like, they're anticipating those decisions. They're, you staff out 2 to 4, maybe 6 weeks ahead. Um, so that, and it's allocating human capital. And if they're making those decisions based on data, they have to make those decisions based on data. And so my thinking was, there's got to be an underlying like truth to this that makes it all um, that functions like physics, because like physics, from my understanding, tries to um, assess and mathematically define the laws of how the universe works,
Mhm.
right? Like, so quick shout out to my friend Ryan O'Neill Allen.
Hmm.
Um, yo, dude, good to see you. Um, I know him from the Wisdom days. And Wisdom is a social audio app, kind of like Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces or X Space. I don't know if they still do that. Um, but it's a one-to-one. So you can't have like big groups in the room. You have like one conversation with one person, and then
Yeah.
there's people can tune in and listen. So
Yeah, I know
kind of like
Clubhouse.
what's that?
Yeah. I know Clubhouse, so it's like that.
Clubhouse is kind of like a classroom, and anybody can shout in and chime in, and so you have to have like strong boundaries on
Mhm.
the code of conduct, I guess,
Yeah.
if you're the host. Whereas it's not called Wisdom anymore. It's now called Noom Vibe. The guy who runs Noom bought Wisdom. Long story short.
Mm.
So astrology to me, like, so there's data that proves a correlation between human behavior and the lunar cycle that's associated with like, so like the first couple were like police and hospital ERs. And I had a baby back in April, and I
Oh,
was
congrats.
thank you. And he was I was talking to the nursing staff, the midwives, before, and I just kind of mentioned this, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I totally believe that. Like it's crazy." She said it's not crazy on the full moon, but the day before and the day after, every month it's crazy.
Mm.
And I was like, so it's so I tried to like research the TAM on it, like
Mhm.
total addressable market, and I
Mhm.
ended up writing this business plan about it. And it's like a couple $1 trillion, and I was like, that's crazy. Because what it
Wow.
ultimately is it's the living substrate behind all of society,
Yeah.
behind all of human mechanisms. And so, like,
So do
that's
you your Substack then is about so educating, informing about that, and then trying to get like corporate companies or governmental institutions to be aware of this, and then you sell them like database packages on helping them like plan their staffing?
you are on the cutting edge of where my head's at.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, building it into a model that like an API that can like plug and play.
Mhm.
I mean, I have a music degree. I don't, I mean, I vibe code this whole thing.
Yeah.
So, um, kind of figuring that out as I go, kind of how to
Mhm.
do that. And, I wrote a pitch deck and like, I don't know, do I submit that to like Shark Tank? Like, how do I do this? Like, I don't know. Um,
Uh, yeah, very
uh,
cool. Yeah.
Ryan asked, could you explain how the astronomical laws of could you explain how the astronomical laws of planetary systems, such as orbital cycles and angular relationships, are converted into the circular diagram of an astrological chart? I'm interested in how the science maps onto the symbolic wheel. Do you want that, Claudia? This is our conversation, right?
I mean, yeah, I think so because we just have about 10 minutes left, so I like to, because we have a half an hour live.
Okay.
Um I because also this is like this is not my field of topic. So for people who join in, it's usually about Substack community, business growth, marketing, and all
Mhm.
of this. So I wouldn't go too deep into that, but maybe because you wanted to go a little bit into like showing your skills based on my charts. I mean, as said, I've never done anything like this, but maybe you can wive in like your answer in that. I don't know if it works. This is all you.
Yeah. Well, totally. Well, so to answer Ryan's question and lead into the question, so you gave me your birth data, and I pulled up your chart, and I was like, look at all these little details, and what's meaningful for her, and um, what will be useful for her to know, kind of about herself. And there's thousands of data points to factor in when you're looking at a chart. And the ultimate truth, and I love this. So my my dad's a we won't go in too deep into him, but he uh invited me to join him and his buddies with a on like a standing like go ride horses kind of thing. And
Okay.
so we went, and I was riding horses with him and his buddies, and he one guy was like, "So what do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm into this astrology thing." And a guy, 10 yards behind me over there was like, "What? Did you say astrology? I thought you said astronomy." And I said, they're not that different if you're doing it right. And
Okay. Yeah.
and I say that to point out that um so like every data point is important.
Mhm.
And there's something called there's a lot more than just the planet on in a specific like zodiacal position. But all of those zodiacal positions are related back to the orientation of the planet within the solar system, within the greater context of the uh, galaxy.
Mhm.
And so it's all based on physics in the first place, but there's a lot of points and things that are missed in just looking at the chart. So, like, for example, most people, I don't know about in Germany, but in the United States, like in elementary school, back when I was in elementary school, we learned that the sun was like here and like all the planets are like going around it, kind of
Mhm.
like I don't know, like a marble run kind of a thing,
Mhm.
where like the sun is just like a stationary thing. But really, like the sun is a planet going around the galaxy. The sun is a shooting star,
Mm.
right? Going around the galaxy. And so there's this really cool image that was made a couple years ago, like a video that was made a couple years ago. Maybe I'll post it and I'll tag you in it or something if I can find it.
Mhm.
But the sun is like a shooting star and the planets are chasing it as the sun is going.
Mm.
Um, and so it's really spiralic more than it's like just a thing sitting there,
Yeah.
like a
Mhm.
static thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and I'm kind of giving you a super long answer and I lost track on the question that you asked me.
That's okay. You were just starting to say that you looked into my birth data and then with the chart and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, we only have a couple more minutes left since we only have a half hour, like you said.
I mean, we
Um,
can take a little bit longer, but just not, just not like an hour long life. Yeah.
okay, okay. Um, um, so the big distinction for you is so this is a whole lot of like computational things, and like the natural response is going to be like, how'd you come up with that? And then it's like, well, step into my office and let me show you all the things that like all the math behind it and
Yeah.
all the models and like, but
Mm.
the takeaway is that uh, when you stop trying to be the mission, but focus on the architecture that helps that others can flow into the architecture through that, like instead of trying to hold it yourself, but build something that allows other people to hold it for you.
Mhm.
Well, hold it for themselves. Because what can happen for you in your chart is you can like um, project yourself and like make it about you when it's not about you. It's about the things that you are offering.
Mhm.
Um, so when you stop trying to hold it all yourself and you build a model that allows it to be held without you having to hold it, then things get a lot easier.
Mm. Interesting. And that's what you see from your models? Like that's the outcome that you analyze from the data, or how's your process there?
Yeah, yeah. Well, so like it layers, right? So
Mhm.
um, most people there's a standard assumption in reality in society that like life is linear, and um, Eric Eric's Corner says spirals are efficient, powerful, and everywhere, and that's true.
Mm.
I like that sentiment because like if it's not if it's not if it's there's no evidence of it in nature and in reality, then like what's the truth that something is like leaning on?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, to be like looking at your chart within the context of the models, yeah, that's one of the things that it said.
Mhm.
Um,
Cool.
so The core lesson is to embody your inner authority so fully that you no longer need to prove, protect, or perform your value.
Wow. This is also interesting. I mean, it's also very, as said, like not the norm for me to go into something like that. But I
Mhm.
think that's also so very cool, right? Like that's kind of what Substack is eye-opening, at least to me, about, that you connect to very different people doing their very own journeys, writing about it. Um, Joshua, can I ask you, what are like kind of like your next steps for your Substack and for your Substack journey? And have you
I
done
love
actually those chart readings? Like, do you do those one-on-one? Do you do them for your Substack community? Like, what's your plan for that?
Well, so I wrote so Mercury came out of retrograde like um 2 weeks ago, a week or two ago. Um, and on the 20th, I think it was November 20th. And I wrote an article about like the Mercury retrograde phase from the full moon on November 5th to when Mercury went out of retrograde on the like past its retrograde point
Hmm.
on the 29th of November. And it was a ton of work.
Mm,
Uh, and trying to make sure it's relatable and it's like not just esoteric. It was just like a ton of work, and um, it didn't get much engagement at all.
mm,
And so I was like, "Is this the right way to do this? I'm not sure if this is the most engaging way to do this." Like, so people like that one lady who's got 80,000 followers or something
hmm.
on Substack. I forget her name.
I
She
don't know.
talks.
There's so many.
There's so
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
but she talks about like publishing 3 pieces a week. I'm
Mm,
like, really? But I can't. That's too much. Like, I
yeah.
mean, it seemed unrealistic. But so
I maybe if I can jump in there, because that's kind of my what
yeah,
I write and talk a lot about, is
yeah,
that I think for you specifically, what is super cool is I would push out notes as much as possible, because notes and also doing lives like this. And actually, I think in 2026, lives are going to get more and more big on Substack. Um, you have to be discovered at first, right? Like people who put a lot of effort into their posts in the beginning, I usually end up super demotivated and frustrated and give up sooner than later because those posts are not going to be read. It's sad, but it's unfortunately like this. So really building up your community and building up your brand and finding your voice and all of those things mostly happen like in those notes and more like social media features now. And then you bring the value to the people with the deep posts, right? So I think they're
yeah.
still helpful, but just probably they're gonna help you more out like later down the road.
Mm. Yeah, I've been posting a bunch on Notes. That's
Hmm.
consistent wisdom across all the different influencers. I don't know the word. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, just spending a bunch of time on Notes and spending less time on writing the posts. Um,
Yeah.
what maybe I ask you some questions since
Yeah. Go ahead.
that's a lot of what we're here for. What's been the most rewarding part of this for you besides like the money piece, but like what's like the most rewarding part?
Yeah. 1000% the community. Like, I don't know who I said it to the other day, but I think I said it on my live session with I think last week with Scott Perry. Yeah. And I basically said that, like from my community, I get so positive feedback, like as positive as I've never gotten working within a team, like, or from my investors or anything from my startup journey. So really the positivity and the feedback I get from the community, I think that's the most rewarding. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's
And
the
also
it's
I
the
just,
relationships.
sorry?
Sorry, go ahead. It's the relationships, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's the relationships. It's those little moments. Like I wrote a note, I think on Friday about it also. Somebody said that they printed out a note that I wrote, and they printed it out and I put it up on their wall. And now my words are somewhere in the world on somebody's walls. And that's crazy. I think yeah, that's what's the most rewarding too.
I mean, that's like impact and influence that people choose, not that they're financially obligated to,
Mm,
you
yeah.
know? I
Yeah.
think that's kind of special and meaningful.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I think for me, it's been like, and I think a lot of different Substack writers talk about this, like finding your voice,
Hmm.
and that only thing again.
Hmm.
'Cause I mean, some people know this, but not, I don't know that I haven't talked about this at all on my Substack really. Another kind of unique thing about my journey is more than half my life ago now, I was in a pretty bad car wreck, and I was had 2 concussions and was in a coma.
Oh
And
boy.
yeah, I had a traumatic brain injury, and um, the medical staff, so that they said I would have been air cared, but it was too windy that day. So
Mm.
um, I won a voucher on my airplane ride, or helicopter ride. Um, but so they, I was an 8 on the Glasgow scale, which, so like 1, so 15 is a mild concussion, and 1 or 0 is dead.
Wow.
Um, and I was an 8, which they said was like the most um, unpredictable one.
Mhm.
Um, but my parents got into the ER, and like they, my dad's an MD, and he said I have some things I'd like to do to help his body heal. And they said, um, we've got everything covered. We'll let you know if we want to try anything experimental.
Mm.
And I was like, what? Like, huh?
Yeah.
And so like the medical system, um, whether I, do I would like, I could talk about my recovery journey. I could talk about the healing. I could talk about the things that like the medical system that like he's doing in his practice, or like what's the value, the only thing. There's a lot of onlys
Yeah.
in
I
my
get
world.
it.
So like what's the thing that people want to hear from me?
Yeah, and
Um,
also, really, I mean, know why you're doing this, right? Because there are a lot of people who are on
mm,
Substack who just really see it as like, hey, this is going to be kind of my personal journal where I want every now and then feedback on. Then some people just say like, hey, this is my creative hobby. It calms me down. I like to share. I like to connect with people. And then there are people who say like, hey, they do want to treat it more as a business. Um, it could be as a marketing platform. It could be really to reach out to people, do projects together. It could be to get paid for their writing. I mean, there's so many different things that you could want to get out of it. And I think the first thing is to know like why you're doing this. And there's so many there's no right or wrong. It really just comes down to your why.
mm. Yeah, I think like I had this vision when I was like 6, and this is
Mhm.
crazy, that that I wasn't alive for I was like a seed for somebody 200 years in the future. That
Okay.
like That's
Wow.
crazy. I mean, so
Yeah.
like there was something that I was gonna do that uh that somebody in 200 years needed to like look back and like, oh, this is how we do this. This is how humanity moves forward out of this mess that becomes whatever it was going to be, that
Mm,
I learned, the late 80s. Um, this is, this is what the next thing is going to have to be.
mm,
And, and I have some pretty strong visions about that with astrology.
mhm,
Um, but I almost thought about like redefining, like not even using the word astrology, because astrology has so much baggage around it.
mhm,
Um, but like coming up with a totally different word, like maybe like astronausticism.
mhm.
But I don't
That's cool.
know, like,
Yeah.
so that was one of the words that I thought about rebranding my Substack to.
Mm. Yeah.
uh, but ultimately, like it became grow through wonder, because everybody wants to grow as a person, pretty much everybody. And you can't go around things, you have to go through them. And you don't stop at wonder, you grow through it to get to the
Mhm,
place where there's something new and a whole new world that you're birthing forth.
mm.
Um, So that's kind of what Grow Through Wonder is about.
That's cool. And you know, it can always develop and go into other directions as you grow yourself, right? I mean, that's kind of, and it's, yeah, I think, you know, you start somewhere, you pivot, you adapt, you see like where you got to go. And that's, you know, you take people on a journey with you. And I think that's a good starting point to let people in on your journey also.
Have you always wanted to be a writer?
No, not at all. This is not my background at all, actually. I just kind of like 10 years ago, I started reading Medium and I was reading all those solopreneurs being on there writing about their journeys. And I was like, oh my God, I have to do this at some point in my life. And I'm actually an entrepreneur. So I have like more of a classical entrepreneurial journey with like, you know, founding startups, getting investors in. And last year, I was pretty tired of all this investor pressure and this,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, and we had, so I founded a health tech startup and we were running a clinical trial and we had to go a little bit slower. So it gave me time to really start my solopreneur journey. And so I said, nice, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start writing. Did it on Medium. Everybody said, like, if you start now, start on Substack. So I moved to Substack and that's how I started. Yeah.
Wow. How many pieces have you written so far?
I don't know. I don't have that number in my mind. But what I can tell you is that I started with 2 posts a week. So I started last year with 2 posts a week. And then I think in the beginning of this year, I moved down to 1 post per week for my Wonderwealth publication. And then I have this other one, which is more about AI. And there I also do 1 post per week. And then I do tons of notes every day. And I try to do a live once a week also.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I feel like I could just like sit down and, have a drink with you or like have lunch with you and we could just chill and talk. But
Yeah.
there's anything else that you want to ask me or if there's anything other questions that I would think to ask you?
Yeah, maybe one last question. Also from the audience. I mean, people, if you have last minute questions, please drop them now and don't make it like very fundamental so we don't have like half an hour answers. Which is usually great, but then maybe they could be more like one live only focused around that or a post or whatever. Where do people find you? What can they expect if they sign up from you now? Yeah, those would be my last questions.
Ooh, well, so Grow Through Wonder is my handle, and you can find me at growthroughwonder.substack.com, or I have a website where you can get a reading with me. It's growthroughwonder.com without the Substack part, and I'm otherwise on the regular social medias, LinkedIn, Joshua Blatman. Um, Medium also, I've written a bunch of pieces on Medium. I think I've written more on Medium than I have on Substack. Um, and um, I think, and so I'm going to try to publish more, I think, on Substack. Um, so, and then, what are you looking to do more, startup-y kinds of things on Substack, or what's your next motion looking like, Claudia?
Yeah, I mean, I still have my startup, so we're in the process of yeah, so that's still there. But for my Substack, I mean, I will continue having my Wonderwealth, but I also lean more and more into AI and AI workflows. Not so much for creators. I mean, I started this publication like AI for helping you, you know, with your creative workflows, like setting up your writing and everything around that, which I think is helpful because AI is a tool and you can use it. You don't have to use it. But I would love to bring it to the next level and really, because that's my background essentially in healthcare, seeing how we can use AI in more corporate settings in regulated fields. And
Mhm.
yeah. And then I also have Coursera, which is like an AI education platform for everybody who wants to jump on a weekly call with AI experts. It's a very cool community, very active, very alive. So it's also something I've started.
Cool. Yeah, there might be a really cool like collaboration that we could build with what
Yeah,
I'm with my like little AI thing and with what
cool.
you're and the overlap in healthcare and um soul embodiment. Like I really like this distinction, and maybe this is one of the things so I'm really big on distinctions, and I think Ryan probably knows this from the audience, because we're friends from back in the wisdom days, as I mentioned before. But One of my favorite distinctions is scaffolding versus grappling hook.
Mhm.
Um, and most of society is built on top of stuff that came before.
Mhm.
And so they're always like stuck on the ground, trying to reach higher, but built on, you know, tied to gravity, and tied to wheels that are like locked on the ground. Um, but the other approach, like the grappling hook, you might be at the same place vertically, but your anchor is towards something that's higher as opposed to the ground. And so while you might be in the same place, you're moored to a different place.
Mm.
Um, and you know, with the grappling hook, if you're like hooked up to a helicopter, not that I'm obsessed with helicopters, but I've mentioned them twice. You
Yeah.
kind of fly anywhere, and you can
Yeah.
go anywhere. You can go as high as you want for the most
Mm.
part. Um, and so like there's a lot more uh, multidimensional mobility
Mm.
with that different approach.
Cool. Well,
Mhm.
yeah, thank you so much for joining. I think like people are no more questions. Just very Eric's corner said very enjoyable video. Thank you both. Ryan says it's an interesting platform. Larry says I'm just exploring live, so cool to see you in person. Um, very cool. Thank you for joining me on this live session to uh open up a different part that I'm not very experienced with. So very cool chatting about that.
Yeah.
And yeah, Joshua, any last final words?
Well, really, really awesome to meet you in person. We've chatted on the back channels a few times, and that's been pleasant and like uh, you know, it's like weird that to be on virtual platforms like this and like not know a person, but I feel like you're pretty good at being personable and relatable, even if it's just like however many characters are on a keyboard. Uh, and so it's cool to get to know you in person, and look forward to continuing.
Cool. Thank you so much and
Thanks for
have a good day,
tuning in,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye.